After firming up India's position with Indonesia and Malaysia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Singapore in the last leg of his three-nation tour. And these are the visuals of the ceremonial welcome that the Prime Minister is receiving the second day of his trip to Singapore. And he has in fact begun his day today with the ceremonial welcome at the Presidential Palace. You're getting live visuals there of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He is in fact meeting the Singaporean President Halimah, Yacob and Prime Minister Hsien Loong. And these are the live visuals of the ceremonial welcome that you are getting on your screens there, as this is the second day that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Singapore. Yesterday he, of course, was greeted by the Indian diaspora in Singapore. He also met with the business community there, and today this is the ceremonial welcome that he started his day with. And he is in fact the first Indian Prime Minister who is going to be hosted in who in fact will be delivering a keynote address of the Shangri-La dialogue. This is the first time an Indian Prime Minister will be addressing an event at as far as the Shangri-La dialogue is concerned, which will be a platform to articulate regional security issues for India and Singapore. And you can see live images of Prime Minister Modi over there as he is receiving the ceremonial welcome. He, along with the Singaporean President, where he is receiving, the Prime Minister of India, receiving the ceremonial welcome in Singapore. This is the second day of his visit. So the Prime Minister is receiving the ceremonial welcome there at Istana, which is the Presidential Palace. He has been greeted there by the Singaporean President, and he will next be meeting his Singaporean counterpart. And then there'll be the signing and exchange of MOUs and then joint press statements. This is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's second day in Singapore. He in fact reached Singapore after making a short halt in Malaysia yesterday, and he addressed the Indian diaspora in Singapore. And this morning he is receiving the ceremonial welcome along with the Singaporean President Halimah Yacob over there. You can see live visuals on your screen. The Prime Minister of India receiving the ceremonial welcome in Singapore. There's also going to be a joint presser where Prime Minister Lee is going to be holding an official lunch in the honor of Prime Minister Modi. Meanwhile, this is the ceremonial welcome, the grand ceremonial welcome that the Indian Prime Minister is receiving. After this, he is going to be delivering a keynote address of the Shangri-La dialogue, which is in fact the first time an Indian Prime Minister will be addressing the event. So the Shangri-La dialogue that we're talking about it's going to be a platform to articulate regional security issues, and the Prime Minister is expected to speak on India's views on peace and security in the ASEAN region and also India's role in the region. And he is going to meet with his Singaporean counterpart later after the ceremonial welcome. Meanwhile, these are live images where you can see the Prime Minister and the Singaporean President as Prime Minister Narendra Modi receives the ceremonial welcome in Singapore. I'm joined in now by Poonam Sharma, who is joining me from Singapore. Poonam, we're getting these live images where Prime Minister is receiving the ceremonial welcome. What is the itinerary? It's a pretty packed schedule for the Prime Minister in Singapore. What is the itinerary through the day? What is on the table?
Hi, Griha. Yeah, the Prime Minister has just reached Istana, and like you're seeing the pictures, the ceremonial welcome is going on. He does have a very comprehensive program here in Singapore. It's a very packed schedule, like you mentioned. So he'll be meeting the President, and then he'll be holding bilateral talks with PM Lee. The Prime Minister will then go to Nanyang Technological University, where he will be meeting innovators and technology minds from India and Singapore. He'll be spending close to 2 hours there. And then, of course, in the evening, the much-awaited Shangri-La Dialogue keynote address is going to take place, where Prime Minister is going to outline India's vision for the Indo-Pacific region. So it's a very packed schedule for the Prime Minister, but a lot of engagement with the diaspora, the business community happened yesterday, and we are going to see the same today in the second half when he reaches NTU.
This becomes the Shangri-La Dialogue, in fact, becomes a first for an Indian Prime Minister to be addressing an event like that. Now, that becomes an important issue as far as Modi's three-nation visit.
Absolutely. Shangri-La Dialogue is a very, very prestigious platform. Delegates from over 50 countries are here in Singapore to be part of this prestigious platform. And like you rightly said, that Mr. Narendra Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister to ever give the keynote address. This region, as we all know, is in a flux, and it's very important that the Prime Minister outlines India's vision for the Indo-Pacific region, as India is playing a very, very crucial role in the ASEAN region now. And like the Prime Minister also said yesterday, that Singapore is the bridge between India and ASEAN, and that moving forward will be a very, very big step for both India and Singapore in taking their relationship forward.
And also, Poonam, the fact that after the ceremonial welcome, there is going to be MOUs and joint press statements that are going to be signed. A word there, what exactly is on the table? What are they discussing as far as Singapore and India relations are concerned?
A lot of MOUs were signed yesterday as well. We saw the RuPay, the UPI, and the Theme, the apps being launched by the Prime Minister. Today, the Prime Minister is there's going to be a lot of business, defense, and other strategic MOUs that are going to be signed. The Prime Minister did mention that they will be looking at a very comprehensive economic agreement with Singapore. So these bilateral talks are going to be talking in all possible directions that Singapore and India will be collaborating. Defense being a very, very important
Poonam, hold your thoughts there. We are also joined now by Geeta Mohan on the phone line. Now, Geeta, we were talking, we earlier discussing the Shangri-La Dialogue. In fact, the Prime Minister becomes the first Indian Prime Minister to deliver a keynote address there. That becomes a very, very important aspect of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's three-nation visit.
Well, absolutely. The fact that it is not just looking at certain Southeast Asian countries, but moving forward on India's Act East policy. India is forging ties not just on the economic front, Griha. We're looking at important strategic partnerships, first with Indonesia, then the stopover in Malaysia, trying to ensure that relations with Malaysia move forward. And now with Singapore, where there are going to be key agreements that are going to be signed. On the economic front, we saw huge B2B agreements and understandings that were signed, and also launching of the online payment forums by the Prime Minister himself. Today is going to be more on the strategic front. He's also going to go to the Changi Naval Base, where he is going to meet with the Indian sailors. And there is going to be some sort of forward movement on defense cooperation between India and Singapore. So expect important agreements, Griha, to be signed today.
All right. So, Prime Minister there, who has actually received the ceremonial welcome by the Singaporean President at the Presidential Palace in Singapore. He will now go ahead and be meeting with his Singaporean counterpart next. It's a packed day ahead for Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Singapore today.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.